Hello and welcome. I'm Mary Fitch, Executive Vice President of the Washington Architectural Foundation, and we're so excited to present Architects Read. This program, like many of our other programs for children, is supported in part by the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities and the Hattie M. Strong Foundation. If you'd like to learn more about our programs for children and adults, please visit our website at aiadc.com.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Architects Read. For all of us that have been participating during the shutdown at home, obviously this will be our 15th book reading series from Architects. And I hope you all enjoy the session. Before we start, a brief intro. My name is Mide Akinshade, and I am a registered architect and practice in the state of Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I actually have my own company called Atelier Mide. And subsequent to that, I have worked at many architecture firms across the DC area. I currently live in Baltimore, but I practice in around DC, and I'm actually a board member at the AIA, the DC chapter. So I'm excited to join you guys to read this particular book. And before we start, I actually would love for all the listeners and participants, given that we're quarantined at home with what's going on, and the prospect of us returning back to school, or maybe not, in physical form, or if it's going to be online. But I think this particular book creates a unique opportunity. Once we go through the book and we read and see what the book is about, I would actually challenge all our young listeners and viewers to take it to heart and reimagine what your school could look like, once we do return back to school. Basically, this book is called If I Built a School. And it's a story of this young boy that is imagining what his school could look like. And his ideas are full of just all these fantastic ideas and fantastic concepts as to what this school could be. As us architects, is not unusual or a departure from how we conceive of buildings. We sort of let our imaginations run wild, and if the building is possible, we can build it towards what that imagination is like. So I would urge you guys to just let your imaginations run wild while you're at home. That if we do return back to school, how can you make your school better? Especially with what we're now, everybody has to wear a mask now. We have to stay 6 feet apart from each other. If we do get to go back to school soon, I would actually challenge you all to maybe imagine what the school could look like, and just sort of let your imaginations run wild. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into the book. Again, the book is called If I Built a School. I'm hoping this is not backwards, but let's start. So the book is by this author named Chris Van Dusen, and he basically crafted this story about this young boy named Jack. And I'm going to start reading, and then I'll show you some illustrations of what I'm talking about so we can all follow along. So it starts. Jack, on the playground, said to Miss Jane, "This school is okay, but it's pitifully plain. The builder who built this, I think she'll be banned. It's nothing at all like the school I have planned." And you can see Jack here on the swing set talking to Miss Jane. And you can see far in the background what his school looks like. It looks like all the buildings that we're used to, right? It has a playground. It has kids playing on the playground, and then you see that school building in the background, which looks like, your typical school. But as we continue in the book, you'll see what Jack ideas are. It's quite exciting. So turning the page, Jack goes, if I built a school, the first thing you'd meet are lots of cute puppies. They'd flock to your feet. But why stop at puppies? Why not a whole zoo? So I'd add a bunch of big animals too. Here you can see an image of what Jack is thinking in terms of bringing animals to the zoo. You can see a lot of puppies playing on the ground, sort of flocking in as Jack and Miss Jane are walking through the front door. There's a zebra there, there's a panda bear, there's an elephant, a camel, and a giraffe, and then it's multiple birds flying around. Obviously, when you come in through the door, there's somebody waiting to meet you, and we'll get to meet that guy later. Turning the page. So right off that lobby that I talked about, right, as Jack is coming in, he goes, right off the lobby, to get to your class, I'd set up a system of tubes made of glass. You hop in a pod, press the number, then zoom. In under 10 seconds, you're right at your room. And I think this is actually a great idea, right, guys? So you see Jack and Miss Jane, once they get past the lobby, they come upon these glass tubes that wind its way around, going all the way up. And you can see a car in there that Jack is going to get to. That's how you get to your class, right? You leave the lobby with the puppies behind. You get in there. Maybe you bring in your puppy with you. You sit on that chair, push a button, and zoom. You just zoom up that tube. You can see this. See these guys already up there. They're on their way to the different classrooms. I think that's a great idea of moving around your school. So turning the page, Jack continues and he goes, all of the classrooms are built onto towers that sprout from the schoolyard like colorful flowers. And like giant petals that welcome the day, the roofs open up in a similar way. Panels fall back and they let in the sun, which frankly makes being there that much more fun. I think that's just dynamite. You can see how Jack and Miss Jane in that car are traveling through those glass tubes that we talked about, and they arrive at their classrooms. Now, their classrooms are these glass flowers almost, and you can see them all on these towers. You get out, and then the roof of those classrooms open up like a flower. That's how you get sun into the classrooms. I think that's just an amazing classroom to be in. You don't have to worry about windows, letting in the sun. You can just look up in the ceiling and watch the flowers open up and letting the light and air. So think about how you can make your schools better. I think this is a great idea that Jack has here. So continuing along with the school, it's a fantastic school. Now, come see your classroom. Isn't it grand? That free-floating platform is where you would stand. And using a stylus, you write in the air. No blackboard, no whiteboard. No, nothing is there. Your words just appear and they magically glow. Don't ask how this works, because I really don't know. So what Jack is talking about here is when you get in the classroom, how does a teacher communicate with the students? And you can see here where Miss Jane is sitting at her desk and she's literally writing with a stylus pen in air. There's no blackboards. And I think what's actually fabulous about this idea is because there's no solid walls or blackboards, you could be in the classroom looking out and seeing the entire neighborhood and the entire school. So Miss Jane writes in the air and you see what she's teaching right there. And it just magically disappears once she finishes writing. Now, Jack is saying, don't ask me how this works. I really don't know. Again, this is a fantastic way of imagination roaming wild, right? And then obviously the engineers and the architects will figure out how to sort of make it happen. But at least the idea of this fantastic classroom is already out there, with Jack sort of dreaming it up. So I think it's fantastic. Now, let's continue. So in the classroom, Jack goes, but you're not the only one floating around. Check out the desks. They don't touch the ground. These are my hover desks. See how they glide? They even have bumpers in case you collide. So I'm sure we've all seen like bumper cars, right? Um, when we go to the amusement park, um, you have these cars that are like little mini cars and they bump into each other. Now, Jack is imagining that everybody's desk is like those, right? So you can see Jack sitting in his own little desk. It's a bumper car, but it's not touching the ground. It's floating. You can see the shadow, that black spot there. That's the shadow from the bumper car. You can see his classmates all in the individual chairs, all floating, and Miss Jane obviously making sure that they're not driving around in a way that's harmful. But each pod or desk, if you would, has a task light. It has a desk. It has areas where you could put your pens, areas down there where you could store your books, and obviously a chair for you to sit on and work. And you can move around the classroom wherever you choose to, as compared to the desks that we typically have now that are sort of, once you sit there, it's stuck, right? You have to lift it up and move it. These are like magical hovercrafts, if you would, and they float around the classroom. I think it's just a fantastic idea. Let's continue. So turning the page, it gets even better, guys. Jack goes, in my kind of classes, we wouldn't have tests. I'm sure we all love that, right? I'd liven things up with some hologram guests. Here are some samples of what I've been thinking. You might meet a T-Rex or Abraham Lincoln. Before we continue, I hope you guys know what a hologram is, right? If you've seen, all these science fiction shows like Star Trek or Star Wars, I don't know, maybe we're too young to see that. Maybe mommy and daddy won't let us see that yet. But these are ways that we can project image of an object or person into space using lights. So you can see here, as Jack is saying, that there will be no tests in this classroom, but all your ideas and all the classroom lessons will be brought to life, and you'll get like real Abraham Lincoln standing in the classroom because it's projected by lights, right? Just sort of teaching what the class is about. Or you could project this giant T-Rex in the classroom, um, you know, obviously with these holograms, these images can move. So you can see the T-Rex roar, and you can see Abraham Lincoln's speech, and everybody's moving around them and looking at them in 3D. I think it's a fantastic idea, guys. So let's continue. It gets even better, guys. I promise you. So on his journey trying to sort of explore what this school is about, he goes next to the library. He goes, the library's next, so let's have a look. You wouldn't find your everyday regular book. These books come alive when removed from the racks, and they pop up like pop-ups, but pop to the max. And if you're not sure what a book is about, you'll find out quite quickly when something pops out. So imagine the typical books that we have, right? A book like this, I have a bookshelf over there filled with books. I'm sure you guys have books at home that you sort of have to read, but imagine these books that when you open them, the subject pops out in three-dimensional. And you can see here this image. You see the title of the book? It says Jack and the Beanstalk. We all know that story, right? The story is about this character named Jack that was given these beans that he plants in the backyard, and then the next morning it's grown so tall into the heavens that Jack climbs it and then gets to go to see who's up there. But if you're in the library and you open that book, the real tree pops out and the real Jack pops out. You can see this student over here opening a book, and a submarine busts out of water and goes into air. So these books are not your typical books in Jack's school. They're just a new way of looking at books. You see Jack sitting at his desk there, and Miss Jane just looking in amazement at like all these 3D pop-up books that are in the library. I wish my books did that. Wouldn't that be great? So going on and looking at the other parts of the school. Now Jack is taking us on a tour of the gym. We all know the gym, right? There's basketball hoops, there's volleyball hoops, and areas where we can do laps and run around. But let's look at how Jack imagines his new school. He goes, "It's off to the gym, and this place is so cool. Around it, please note my perimeter pool. The pool's a deep oval that everyone likes. You race underwater on submarine bikes. Up there is my trampoline basketball court. It's partly a bounce house and partly a sport. There's also a rock wall, and here's something new. I've added some skydiving wind tunnels too." Wow. So let's take a look at Jack's gym. Can you guys see that? So there's like this pool that's shaped like an oval that goes around this basketball court. And the basketball court is not just a regular basketball, it's actually a trampoline. So you see these students bouncing on the trampoline and shooting the balls. And then in that pool, before you get to the pool, around the basketball court is a race course where students run in laps. And outside of that is an oval pool that goes around. And in that pool are bikes, submarine bikes. You can see the students racing in these submarine bikes. They're wearing helmets that lets them breathe underwater. See the puppies from the lobby, they follow them and they can see through the glass tank of that pool. And then up there in the distance is a rock climbing wall, and everybody's climbing that in this huge gym. Now, again, remember, the gym is not closed in. You can see through the glass there that you're looking at the fields and the city beyond. I think it's a very fantastic idea for a school, guys. Can you guys see that clearly? Awesome. Oh, one thing I forgot before we leave the gym. Sorry, guys. So the last thing you mentioned is this wind tunnel, right? There's another one back there. And the wind tunnel is for skydiving. So people go all the way to, they enter through the bottom here, and it shoots them, the air pushes them, so they're floating. We've seen these diving tubes, right? And there's a series of them in the gym that lets people enjoy the gym. What's actually great about this school also is that Jack is thinking about everybody. He's not just thinking about people that are not handicapped. You know, there are some people that have to sit on wheelchairs, some students that have to sit on wheelchairs. And Jack is actually thinking of them too. You can see, and that's actually a very important point, because as architects, these are things that we have to think about when we're designing a building. We have to make sure that somebody in a wheelchair or mom and dad that are carrying the strollers, they can get into the building. So we have these ramps that we always create to bring people up and down into buildings, people that can't climb steps. Because imagine if you have to push a wheelchair, it's going to be impossible to get up a series of steps, but a ramp lets you do that. You can see a wheelchair there that one of the students is using. So Jack is pretty thoughtful in his design as to how he can make a fantastic school environment for everybody. I want to go to that school. I don't know about you guys. I really want to go. So let's continue. Off to the next space. Ooh, Now, we get hungry at some point when we're in school, right? And we want to sort of go to the cafeteria to eat. So let's see what Jack has in mind. He goes, I just heard the lunch bell, so let's go and eat. I'd like you to meet my new robo chef, Pete. He's 20 feet tall and it spins on a gear. You order your lunch in this microphone here. And Pete can make anything, simple or weird, from PB&J sandwich to squid, lightly seared. Ew. You know, the chef can make anything you want. If you want squid for lunch, lightly seared, because the chef is a robot, you know, the chef would make it and just whip it up. Or if you just want a PB&J sandwich, you know, the chef would make that, or pizza. So let's see the image of what the giant, 20-foot tall robo chef Pete looks like. You guys see that? You guys see that? Like, that's Pete, the robo chef. You can see how tall he is. See how the kids and Miss Jane getting ready to eat lunch? So you sit at the desk there, right? And each desk has a microphone. You speak into the microphone what you want, and voila, it comes out of these windows here. So you can see Miss Jane eating the squid. Ugh, you know, sure, we hate that. But look at this kid is ordering pizza, and this kid has spaghetti and meatball. And Pete obviously is ordering a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Obviously, the puppy would love to have something too. That's a great, great, great cafeteria to be in. Again, all glass. Everybody can see outside. You can see the trees. You can see the glass tubes that we talked about earlier up there in the classrooms from the cafeteria. Makes me hungry. What time is it? It's past lunchtime. Let's continue. So lunch is over. It's now time for recess. Woo! Let's go outside and play. Let's head out the door. My playground is awesome. So much to explore. Fly on the zip line way up in the sky, or slide down the twisty slide 3 stories high. And after all that, if you're hot and you're beat, then you can go tubing. Now, that will be sweet. So let's look at what the playground looks like in Jack's school. Looks like a fantastic amusement park, doesn't it? You can see this waterfall that creates this sort of waterway for tubing. You see people sitting in tubes and they go around the entire park. Or you go up this tower and you slide through this tube all the way down. See, this kid just got out. Can you guys see? And you can see this giant zip line in the sky that's taking everybody so you can look down and see the entire playground. And obviously, there's our cute little puppy there that followed us out into the playground. There's even places where you can ride horses. There's a little barn there. There's a little castle. I think this is a great playground. Everybody would definitely look forward to recess. Absolutely. Wow. I want to go to Jack's school. I don't know about you guys. I really want to go. Now, we're heading back into class. So Jack says, in art, we use sprayers to splash out paint. In music, we're loud, but our teacher's a saint. And over in science, just one of the features is lab-grown, genetically modified creatures. Spooky. So let's look at 3 classes that Jack was talking about. If you're in the art class, you see Miss Jane on the corner there, making sure everybody's doing the right thing. You see art as an art class. And everybody has these giant cannons of paint that they're shooting on these giant canvases to create art. And in the next classroom, there's this giant instrument that looks like a mixture of a trumpet and a trombone and any other wind instrument you could think about. It's a combination of them, and everybody could sit at the instrument playing it at the same time, and it's super loud. And then over in science, you could create any animal you want, and I think that's fantastic. You could see this fish in this tank that this student created that now has a head of a swan, looking out of the tank. There's like a snake in the background there that has wings, is flying around. And there's this chicken here that escaped the science lab. It's a little chicken that has a head of a rhino. I think that's fantastic. You can see Jack laughing and seeing the chaos that's created. If you guys can look close again, you can see the chicken with the head. And obviously the music room. And Miss Jane looking at them make art. And obviously there's our friend, little puppy there. That's awesome. So on to the next space. Ooh, field trips. So in Jack's school, he goes, we'll visit new places, travel, explore, because we'll go on field trips galore. My specialty buses will tote us around. They dive underwater. They blast off the ground. And yes, they have wheels, like our regular cars, which neatly retract when we rocket to Mars. So in Jack's school, for their field trip, they actually get to go explore other planets in these very cool buses that the wheels could retract and they zoom around to other planets. You can see these Martians in the corner looking at Jack and the students. Miss Jane sitting there with Jack and our friend, our puppy there, and the driver. Isn't that great? On field trips, you don't even have to go to the museum. You can go to another planet entirely. Wow. That's a great school. You'll never be bored, I guarantee you that. Now, we're getting towards the end where Jack concludes and goes, my school will amaze you. My school will astound. By far, the most fabulous school to be found. Perfectly planned and impeccably clean. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's more like 15. And learning is fun in a place that's fun too. So we're going to look at the outside of Jack's school. You can see everything that we've talked about. This is Jack at the entry there with Miss Jane. And look at that fantastic school. Isn't that great? See all those classrooms that we visited earlier that open like flowers? All those colorful pods that you see in the air? See the tubing from the recess area that we visited? And also you see the bus that took them on the field trip to Mars. That's Jack's school, guys. Isn't that fantastic? So, did you guys have fun visiting Jack's class at Jack's school? I did. I think it's a fabulous school. And as I was saying earlier when we started, I hope that you guys, before you get back to school, to come up with ideas as to how you can make your classrooms and your school better. And discuss them with your parents, discuss them with your friends, discuss them with your teachers at school. Because I think with these ideas that you have, hopefully when you get older, and if you do choose to become an architect like myself, you can build those schools and make them these fantastic places to be. Again, think about it. Your school doesn't have to look the way it does currently. That's why we architects do what we do, trying to make the world a better place. So with all these imaginations that you have in your head, making them come alive and imagining and dreaming about them starts now. So I hope you guys enjoyed the session. I really did enjoy this book, and I hope to do this again at some point because I really, really enjoyed this. So with that said, guys, thank you so much, and that's it.